This Palestinian makluba should be the star of your Eid dinner. Makluba is one of my favourite Palestinian dishes. It translates to upside down, is a rice dish often made with chicken or meat and vegetables like aubergine and cauliflower. I know it feels like Ramadan just ended, but Eid al-Adha is just around the corner. Let's prep all the components to this dish, starting by slicing and salting aubergine. You will see all the excess moisture that comes out after just 20 minutes of soaking. Fry aubergine on a medium-high heat for about 5 minutes on each side until you get this golden brown colour. Repeat this process until all the aubergine is fried and set that to one side. Now this is our makluba spice mix, which includes cumin, turmeric, ground ginger, garlic, paprika and more. The full written recipe is in my caption. In the same pan, we're going to sear off our marinated chicken. Fry the chicken for 5 minutes either side on medium heat until it starts to brown and the spices become fragrant. Once the chicken looks something like this, remove it onto a plate, and in the same pan, we're going to fry some onions until they just caramelize. Then remove the onions, and in the same pan, we're going to make our broth. 2 chicken stock cubes and 2 tablespoons of tomato puree. Then add about 750 ml of boiling water and 1 dried lime. Now all the components to our makluba has been prepared and we're ready to assemble the rice dish. Make sure you wash and soak your rice prior to assembling the makluba. Start with your chicken in the bottom of the pan, then I like to add some chopped carrots to fill in that space. Then do a layer of my favourite part, which is the fried aubergine, followed by the caramelized onions. I like to add a layer of sliced tomatoes because I love how that breaks down into a sauce. Then some slices of potato which have been air fried for 15 minutes. I've used about 3 cups of rice and 500 ml of my broth. Cover with a lid and let this steam on low heat for 45 minutes, and that is it. Let it cool for 10 minutes before attempting the flip. Fluffy Kabuli lamb pilau with rice that doesn't stick together. Let me show you how to make it. This is one of my favourite rice dishes, especially during Ramadan. You can find the full written recipe in my cookbook, Desified. Start by searing your lamb. I've got about 1 kilo of lamb here on the bone for extra flavour. Then add 1 large sliced onion and fry that until the onion completely caramelizes. Next we're going to add our whole spices. Let them toast. Once they get fragrant, we'll add our ground spices. There's cumin, cumin seeds, black peppercorns and salt. Give that a stir. Now pressure cook this for 45 minutes. If you don't have a pressure cooker, just put it in a regular pot on the stove for 2 to 3 hours. The longer the better. In a non-stick pan, toast some almond slices and set this aside for later. In the same pan, melt some butter, then fry some julienne carrots. Once they start to soften, add in some sultanas and raisins and a sprinkle of salt and sugar. After 45 minutes in the pressure cooker, the lamb will be fall off the bone tender. Now add your rice and equal parts of water. There's already some moisture left in the pot, so you don't want to add too much water. Give that a gentle stir and pressure cook the rice for 12 minutes. Now the fat and the juices from the lamb will keep the rice separate. It won't clump together and the rice will be perfectly cooked and fluffy in just 12 minutes. You can find the full written recipe for this family feast and many others like it, audiobook in time for Ramadan. The link is in my bio. This is my chicken tikka biryani. If you're wondering what to cook next week for Eid, don't worry, I've got you covered. And yes, Eid is just around the corner yet again. Starting with our marinade, we're mixing ginger and garlic into yogurt along with our spices, which are listed in the caption below. To get that vibrant red colour, you could use food colouring, but I prefer to use a bit of paprika instead. Let that marinade in the fridge whilst we make our masala. Fry onion and whole spices in lots of ghee before adding chilli and the rest of your spices. Add 1 chopped tomato and a splash of water, then let this break down into a sauce. Finally, add in the yogurt that was left over from our chicken marinade. Now grill the chicken for 8 minutes on each side until it's cooked through and char grilled. Add the chicken into the sauce along with all of the juices. Add another splash of water if needed, then we're ready to assemble our biryani. This is parboiled rice. It's about 70% cooked, and I'm layering that with the chicken tikka, fried onions and some coriander. Keep layering until you reach the top of your pot, then finish it off with some lemon and steam for 20 minutes on a low heat. The rice should be perfectly fluffy and infused with all of the spices from the chicken. Eid Mubarak and enjoy! This is my chicken tikka. This is definitely the best lamb pilau you will ever have in your life. Just look how perfectly cooked each individual grain of rice is. This pilau is flavorful, fragrant, fluffy. The meat is perfectly tender, so let's get into the recipe. Start by frying 1 kilo of lamb in ghee for about 10 minutes until it has browned all over. Then add 1 large sliced white onion and fry that for 3 or 4 minutes until it starts to caramelize. Next, we're going to add in our whole spices, that's cinnamon, star anise, cardamom. I also like to add dried plums. Now, this is not typical, but I like to add a teaspoon each of chili powder, turmeric and garam masala, because then you end up with a biryani style lamb pilau, which is my favorite. I am pressure cooking for 1 hour. If you don't have a pressure cooker, then boil for minimum 3 hours until it's tender. Season well with sea salt, then add 3 cups of washed and soaked rice. Now, my tip to get perfectly cooked individual grains of rice is to just add enough water so that there's 1 inch of water above the rice level, as I'm showing you here. Pressure cook for 12 more minutes, then your best lamb pilau is ready. Have you ever heard of Keema Biriyani? I had no idea this existed until recently, and if you're a biryani fan like me, then you've got to try this. To make the keema, start by browning onion, garlic and ginger. Add some ghee and fry off your whole spices until they become fragrant. Add a mincemeat of your choice, I'm using mutton. Brown that all over, then stir through your spices. Add a can of chopped tomatoes, then simmer for 30 minutes until tender. Remove from the heat, then stir through your garam masala. I recently have been adding garam masala at the end of cooking because I like the rich, fresh flavour. Assemble the biryani by layering parboiled rice and keema. The food colouring in between layers is optional, but the fried onions on top are a must. Steam for 15 minutes on a low heat. Make sure you wrap the lid with a tea towel to absorb extra moisture. A little 2 cups of rice, and that will serve 4 people. Start by frying a handful of pine nuts, then caramelize your onions before adding your spices. You'll need black cloves, cinnamon and star anise. Once it's fragrant, brown your lamb for 5 minutes on each side until it's even in colour. Season with cumin, salt and pepper, and now here's where the magic happens. I'm using my Tefal Turbo Cuisine to pressure cook my lamb for 20 minutes and watch how it completely transforms the lamb. This is the first pressure cooker I've ever used, and I was honestly shocked at how juicy the lamb was in just 20 minutes. Now add your rice and about 2 cups of water. That's all you need because there's already a lot of juice in the pot. Boil for 10 minutes and let it sit for about 5 minutes and you'll be left with perfect fluffy rice.
This lamb cooked from raw to fall off the bone tender in literally 20 minutes.
Plate it up, then serve it with some crispy onions, your fried pine nuts and turka mint. This Pakistani dish deserves to be enjoyed the authentic way with your hands. Go buy a pressure cooker, it will change your life. This is Ramadan recipes, where I'll be cooking 30 recipes for 30 days of fasting, and today we're making a 1-pot tandoori lamb chop and rice. Let's start with our marinade for the lamb. To plain yogurt, add lots of garlic, fresh mint and your spices. Then I also add some good quality olive oil and a splash of soy sauce for a richer flavour. Add your chops and make sure they're well coated, then let this marinate for an hour in the fridge. Cook on sizzling high heat for 5 minutes on each side. Halfway through, add in some Turkish green peppers and tomatoes. I like to get my lamb chops really golden brown and charred for that smoky flavour. Once it's cooked, remove everything from the pan and add in your rice and turmeric. Scrape the bottom of the pan so all of that flavour gets cooked into the rice. This is my first of many 1-pot recipes for iftar. By the time it gets to dinner, we're already hungry and tired, but we still want a delicious meal. So these 1-pot recipes mean we don't have to compromise on delicious foods just because we're fasting. So once your rice comes to the boil, add your lamb chops back in, cover it and cook this for 15 minutes on a low simmer. Finish it off with a sprinkle of fresh coriander and enjoy. Let's make a Pakistani style chickpea pilau. We're taking it back to basics with this classic Pakistani rice dish. There's so many sweet fried onions in there, it's so good. Chickpeas pilau, sometimes called chickpeas chawal, is such a nostalgic dish for me. Growing up, if we were ill, we would eat this with just some plain yogurt on the side. But my favourite is to serve this chickpeas chawal with a simple mutton curry. Take your time when you're frying the onions. You want them to completely caramelise before adding in your whole spices. Cumin seeds are one of my favourite spices. I like to add a decent amount when making any type of pilau. A follower messaged me the other day and said she used to add a whole chickpeas can, including the brine and all, and she wondered why her food did not taste good. Wash your chickpeas. I added 2 cups of rice, 2.5 cups of water. Stir that gently, cover with a lid and let it cook for 15 minutes on a low heat. I like to wrap my lid with a tea towel because it just absorbs any extra moisture. And that's how you get your rice super fluffy, separated grains of rice, no mushy rice here. And if you're wondering what to serve this with, I have lots of curry recipes in my cookbook, Decified. There's a link in my bio to order. Give this a go, let me know what you think. This is my Pakistani chicken pilau. Pilau is a fragrant rice dish made with either chicken or meat, and it has lots of warm spices in it, like cumin, cloves and cardamom. Start by frying onion until it softens before adding garlic and ginger. Once golden brown, add in your spices. Once the spices become fragrant, add in your chicken and sear all over. Once the chicken has changed colour, add cumin, garam masala, salt and pepper. Give that a good mix before adding 2 cups of washed and soaked rice. Then add 2.5 cups of water, give it a gentle stir, cover with a lid and let it cook for 20 minutes on low heat. Finish it off with some crispy fried onions and coriander. So simple, now your chicken pilau is ready and it's best served with a mint chutney or raita on the side. This is a rice dish that's often made on Eid during Ramadan, but also delicious anytime throughout the year. You can find more Eid recipes in my cookbook, Desified. There's a link in my bio and TikTok shop to order. Let's make a Pakistani... Oh, it's hot.